All right, guys, please let me know where you're joining from and welcome to the Ravit Show. I am super happy today because today my special guest is Andrew Krim from Data Meaning. He is the head of enablement at Data Meaning and Alteryx ACE. I can't wait to ask him a lot around analytics because he is an expert out there. Andrew is the just a little about Andrew. Obviously, Andrew is an industry leader with over 10 plus years of experience in self service analytics who helps companies create centers of enablement with a focus on analytics process automation. His experience guiding teams ranging in size from 5 to 15,000, yes, exactly 15,000 through their analytics. Maturity spans a variety of industries, including finance, hospitality, healthcare, and more. So today we'll be discussing obviously about his journey because it is tremendous. Where you are actually managing a team from 5 to 15,000, which is huge. So definitely talking about his journey, top data and analytics skills, career paths in analytics, and much more. So feel free to let us know where you're joining from, and also we do have a giveaway. We can't forget that. Just to let you guys know what are we giving away today, it's annual subscription by our partners 365 data science. What you need to do is just type in hashtag 365 data science in the chat section, and you'll be entering the raffle and we will be announcing the winners by end of the show. Also 365 data science is being very kind to everyone, and they have started 1 month free trial, for 1 month free courses for everyone. So go visit their website and you have a chance to have that 1 month of free trial. Okay, guys, without any further ado, I know Andrew is waiting for me eagerly backstage. So let's get him here. Hey, Andrew, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Hey, Ravit, this is amazing. I love being part of any of these sessions, and I've been following you for a while now, so I'm really excited to be on here and, of course, talk about one of my favorite things, analytics.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. And trust me, when we were talking about your shirt backstage, I knew how excited you were also to be on the show. So thanks for that. And we already have a few folks joining us. Before we get on to your introduction, obviously, we'll just greet them. Joey is here. I don't know who the LinkedIn user is, but hi everyone, and please let us know where you're joining from. Also, feel free to have questions for Andrew around analytics because he will let us know how to jumpstart your career in analytics. So can't wait. But to start with, obviously, Andrew, can you let us know, about your background, where you're coming from, just a short introduction about yourself.
Yeah, so I recently joined the consulting world a few years ago, and just kind of working on taking the world by storm here. And I literally
Yeah.
mean the whole globe. So we deliver
Wow.
enablement all around the globe. Um, EMEA, APAC, Latin America, here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And what's incredible about that is you obviously encounter a lot of different individuals who have different styles of not only conducting analytics, but breaking into their careers in the space and then driving insights that are meaningful for the entire world to be more efficient and just highlighting different problems. And that ranges from everything to I've helped here in the US with COVID, helping some of the laboratories with their analytics. Back a few years ago, I did a codeathon with Health and Human Services about the
Amazing.
opioid epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hear a little bit about the crisis and just kind of see how all this plays in, right? And then when we talk about analytics, it's not all doom and gloom and crazy scenarios where we're freaking out. I also live here in Orlando, hence the fun shirt here. Enjoying some warm weather here in Florida, the last bits of it. And as we kind of talk about that, everybody works at the park sometimes, so analytics can be fun too. And
Right.
when we discuss being here local, you've got user groups and stuff that are visible everywhere. So there's lots of fun that can be had in this industry.
Awesome introduction. Thanks for that. We already have someone saying they love your swordfish patterned shirt.
Nice.
So that gets us motivated for our session today and talk a lot around analytics, Andrew. So for our viewers and audience, definitely what I just like to remind them that we are talking about how to jumpstart your career in analytics, and Andrew is here to share his experiences, his insights, and thoughts around that. So feel free to have your questions running. But to start with, obviously, Andrew, what do you think are the top skills you recommend our followers to cultivate to start further their careers in analytics, or maybe just for starters, and then maybe get into intermediary? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things that I would look at, and you can start very basic. So depending on where you're at in terms of your mindset and how you think. So if you're more like to follow logic and patterns, I would recommend taking a look at um, data transformation platforms to kind of understand um, the ways in which
Right.
data moves from the sources, right? And then cultivating that information. So if you like problem solving, then this is a great path to go. And you can do that with platforms like Alteryx, Matillion, Talend, etc. Right? I chose Alteryx because I love the community. It's incredible. You go there, and it's not like Stack Overflow where um, they're getting angry at you for asking silly questions. Everybody's excited and wants
Yeah.
to help you. And then you also have infrastructure, right? So if you like building things, right now, if we were talking about that, the base is still really SQL. Um, so what we can look at is you could start that with MS SQL and do like AdventureWorks. My suggestion
Right.
is to take a look at Snowflake. It's a cloud hosted database infrastructure. And when we talk about that, they give $400 of free credits for you to explore, and there's
Wow.
data that's already in there. And then the final one, if you love creating things that look beautiful, right? That look like infographics, like you're seeing on LinkedIn or in other places,
Mm-hmm.
visualization is the way to go. So you could look at Power BI, Click, Tableau, right? And all of these have different user groups, so you can get involved locally, virtually, and I would say 90% of those have either free licenses or free sandboxes.
Mm-hmm.
The final one I'll touch on, which always gets everybody excited because I mean it smells like a big payday, is data science, right?
Yes.
So how can you get involved in data science quickly? Obviously, there's Kaggle if you're not familiar with that, where you can, if you're really interested in coding, you can take an Udemy course or Code Academy, etc. There's tons of courses out there. Learn some Python and R,
Mm-hmm.
solve some really incredible problems. And then the other one I would look at is Neo4j, which is a graph
Yeah.
database, and that allows you to kind of munge through the data, and that's free as well. So much free stuff here, Ravit. I think they're going to be
Exactly.
overflowing with opportunities here.
Definitely. And you were just talking about earlier about why how data visualization is important. That reminds me of Kate, and Kate was here. Kate is here. So Kate says it's good to see you on the show. And yes, Kate, I'm very happy Andrew is finally on the Ravit Show and here to discuss such an important topic about how to jumpstart your career in analytics. And rightly mentioned, there are so much free stuff out there, but Andrew, you've pointed out at such right positions of in terms of those platforms where folks can actually visit and learn different ways to get an upskill themselves, and Neo4j definitely is one of them. I totally agree. Kaggle, yes, 100%, because I've seen so many competitions happening over Kaggle, and it's one of the platforms which definitely is free and helps you to upskill. So makes a lot of sense. But okay, just moving on a bit, Andrew, I would still, I would definitely want to know what really helps a candidate to stand out when they are working, applying for a new position in the analytics field? What do you think? How, like, if you get a resume, what would be your thoughts when you are looking at a resume or maybe a profile? How does it
Mm.
work?
Yeah, so this is a great question, Ravi, and I think over the course of my career, it's really changed, right? So when I first started, it was definitely
Exactly.
focused on degrees, right? So you
Yeah.
needed something from a professional institution. I don't think that's the case anymore. The industry is moving
Mm-hmm.
so quickly that the universities and colleges can't keep up with that. So what you're seeing is there's actually two things that I would focus on.
Mm-hmm.
One is going to be certifications, right? Which a lot of those again are free. The second one is going to be a portfolio. So
Interesting.
those answer two different questions, right? When we're applying for a position, like even here at Data Meaning, we always have candidates applying, right? So one of them is basically to understand and identify clearly across all candidates what is that baseline understanding that those individuals have, right? That's where the certification comes in. Because I know if you got that
True.
according to whatever technology platform that is, that means you have a minimum level of understanding. And then when we talk about a portfolio, that really allows you to kind of show your individualism, right? Show your personality, your creativity, and then also what things do you like solving.
Very
And
true.
when we kind of talk about that, that could be anything from weekly challenges on Alteryx, the Kaggle competitions, right? Your Tableau
Exactly.
public profile, all of those again are free, and then you can include that in your resume or your CV to really make an impact and show something different.
Definitely, 100% agreed with you, Andrew, there, because recently I did a poll, which I would definitely share with our audience as well, where I easily asked them about what is the best way to upskill in data science or
Mm.
analytics field. And I put four options where it was more about courses, universities, books, or something else. And people came up, courses got the maximum, like the certifications got the maximum number. I'll definitely share it with you after our conversation. And after that, there were so many more platforms which they actually mentioned, and Alteryx was one of them,
Yeah.
where they were like, you can just go out there and there's so much free credits, free stuff, and you can do so many things out there. So totally makes a lot of sense there, Andrew. And yes, Alan here says certificates get the greater value. So definitely it does. And those are literally great insights from you, Andrew. Also, just since obviously we are talking about different platforms and different ways to upscale and get your resume built that strong, I had a question around, what channel, like what one channel, how can one actually channel their passion in the data field towards a purpose? How would
Mhm.
you suggest that?
Yeah, so that's actually interesting. And what I recommend, it's almost like Warren Buffett. So this will sound really weird, but Warren Buffett actually recommends, if you ever read his book, that you shouldn't invest in things that you don't know about. And really, you should only invest in 10 things at a time, right? So when we talk about those things, there may be some things that you're already passionate about in your life.
Yeah.
So I'll give some examples. For me, it's bees, it's plants. I get involved in some really weird stuff. But when we talk about that, when I look at data, I like to
Hmm.
align with some of those hobbies, right? So when we discuss what the venues and things are, I love LinkedIn and kind of sharing some of those insights. So when we talk about analytics, I do analytics
True.
on LinkedIn, as weird as that sounds. I'm in there trying to understand, okay, how what are the things that people are enjoying that I'm sharing? Um,
Hmm.
how can we kind of drive that to the next level? And then how can what are the things that I am providing that are giving the most value to individuals. So if it's cheat sheets, just
Yeah,
prompting questions or quotes to motivate everyone during the day, I think those are incredible.
that is definitely a lot of insights, Andrew. And uh, Kate says, I knew the bees and the plants would make their way into the talk eventually. That clearly means you love nature a lot, Andrew.
Yeah,
So thanks for bringing that up. But since you were talking around the technical side when we were around the question before
yeah.
this, Marvin says this is about the technical side. But what do you see on the soft skill side when you
Mhm.
get a candidate's resume or a profile?
This is actually a great question. Thank you for this one, Marvin. So when we look at analytics as a whole, um, let's see, I actually have a couple books here next to me as we kind
Wow.
of talk about this. So this gives you an
Amazing.
idea, completely unplanned here on this one. But so I have my leaders reading this one. So languages of appreciation. We're in a very technical field, right? So everybody gets excited about the numbers and focusing on that. And what I care about also is there's a human element to this, right? When we're looking at really embracing our fellow team members, we want to make sure that they feel appreciated. And that's not coming from like a Ravit, you hit 40 hours or 50,000 followers. Congratulations, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, I know you're just watching that. You really need to feel that emotional connection. And when we discuss that, what's interesting is there are some studies even from McKinsey that are saying currently a leader in the analytics space, or even as you're looking at breaking into this space,
Hmm.
the emotional intelligence being a factor of your job is around 10 to 15% right now. They said over the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to increase to 30 to 40%.
Wow.
So think about that. 30 to 40% of your job is going to be surrounded by having those soft skills. And part of that, I believe, is the amount of automation that is coming. Um, when we talk about that volume of change that's occurring, even if you're looking at getting into this space, it's really going to be about helping others feel comfortable with what's coming. And that requires
True.
what the book that I've just finished reading called Nonviolent Communication. So you need to
Hmm.
ask, what are people feeling? What do you specifically need? And then what would you like um, to have happen, right? So maybe you're feeling anxious about the job that you have right now, and you need new opportunities, and you would like someone to provide you a path to accomplish those new opportunities in the analytics space.
Right.
That's what's supposed to help kind of resonate with those individuals, that we may be providing them analytics which makes them fear they have potential for losing their jobs, right?
Wow. This is super insightful in terms of obviously the soft skill side. So thanks for that. We have a few more questions coming in. So let's take this question from Manisha. What do you think is the best approach to get into analytics? Very direct question.
Yeah. So, Manisha, I would say just get started, get your hands dirty. So, we've talked about a
Hmm.
couple platforms here. If you're a little anxious about getting started with one of those platforms, I would recommend joining a user group, um, following
Hmm.
our YouTube channel for Data Meaning. We have tons of short clips, literally. Majority of them are between like 3 minutes and then max of like 10 to 20 minutes. So if you just need those little bites every day to kind of get the wheels turning, you can. And then we also have webinars where we're sharing different platforms, everything from Alteryx, Tableau, etc. And let's say, hey, I want to be more comfortable, and that may mean I want the material in different languages. Check out your local user groups, because there's tons of them around the world, and they can present it in all different fashions. Or maybe that's one of your passions, is you want to travel, you can even check out analytics in a different language and see what they're talking about.
Wow. This is great answer to a great question. Thanks for that question, Manisha. And an interesting question. Obviously, this was about getting into analytics, but Marvin is on a roll today. He is asking, "Have you ever met someone whom you felt didn't belong in the field, and if so, why?"
Hmm. This is interesting. So when we talk about belonging in a field, I think it's about aligning with passions, right? So I think there's two ways that we can kind of lead, right? And when I discuss that personally, I like to lead by power, and right, what I mean by that is empowering individuals. And the other that we can see commonly is by force, right? So a lot of what you'll see from the analytics space is, hey, this is the
Hmm.
numbers. The numbers don't lie, right? And if you're not
Exactly.
hitting your numbers, um, it's not offering you direction, then one, I think that's part of the reason why we get the sense of not belonging because we're not creating these great things. We're so focused on the numbers. And what it should really be just focused on is providing value. And
True.
in the situation where you're a leader, that's providing value to the individuals who you're supporting, right? Because they're going to do that in return. And those
Exactly.
individuals who are just looking to get into the field, right? If you're coming to an interview, that's where those two things come into play is certifications. Hey, you're at a
Hmm.
level where you can provide value and you can justify maybe your ask for the salary. And then the other one is, are you coming with ideas that are going to generate ROI? And that's your
Yeah.
portfolio.
No, I think that is very interesting, and thanks for that question, Marvin, because Andrew has picked up a very important topic, which is you are into analytics and you should know numbers very well. Those numbers play the most important role when you are in analytics, and uh, that makes you actually, if you are from the field or if you are not from the field. So that
Mm.
is a great way to define, and other strategies too kind of depend on that. Okay. Moving on, I had a question, obviously, and this is my personal question coming in. Since we talk a lot around analytics, and there's obviously there are different approaches to analytics, but my easy question is, obviously, is coding or programming really a requirement to be in this field, or it doesn't matter?
So I think that depends on which part of the analytics process you're interested in starting with. So this kind
Hmm.
of touches also again on what Marvin was asking, right? Did you feel that someone belonged in the field? So the field,
Hmm.
I think, is very wide. Do I feel that some individuals don't belong in a particular part of that entire process? Yes. And as we look to the start of that process around infrastructure as well as maybe the transformation area, which is kind of the middle section of that. So, like if we're talking about the salt stack, back to a session that Kate and I did about a month ago, you can see that you have
Yeah.
the data infrastructure, the transformation. Those two are technical in nature and do require a lot of math and um, STEM background, right?
True.
When we look at the visualization background, I think there's a little bit more flexibility that exists there. There are some calculations involved, but they
Hmm.
uh, aren't necessarily as deep. What I want to highlight is if you're scared and you say, "Hey, I don't have those skills." Believe it or not, when you're in the moment, there's a lot of that you'll pick up. And as I
Hmm.
love to share with people, hey, steal like an artist, right? With all of these
Exactly.
platforms, Tableau Public, there's tons of other work that you can look at and you can say, wow, that's beautiful. Let me understand how that person made that. I'll download it and I'll just break it apart
Hmm.
and understand it, right? Reverse engineering. You can easily do that in this field.
So definitely that answers my question, Andrew. Which is, you? It depends on what way in. Obviously, analytics has many subfields, and it totally depends on which field are you getting into. So thanks for that. Since we are talking around skills a bit here, definitely I would love to pick Kate's question. How do you deal with people that don't have great soft skills?
So I think that comes back to like book
The
club
book.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
The other one that I have, there's two things that I would share. So one that I love reading. This is Jeremy Gruchier. So he's got Innovation Handbook. If you haven't checked him out before, he's
Hmm.
incredible. Trend Hunter is his site, and what he talks about is literally this idea of having lots of things, right? So crowdsourcing, maybe it's the most important soft skills that you need in the tech space, right? And you can see all
Very
those
true.
different listicles, right? Talk about listicles and we see them all the time on LinkedIn. So when we talk about those soft skills, it may be change management that's important, right? Learning visualization, how do you convey a message properly? And then another important soft skill is the ability to ask questions. I think that's one of the most important ones in the analytics space is the ability to ask a question successfully because Ravit, you may tell me, hey, I want some analytics on this show, right? Um,
Very true.
what are the top skills that I should be asking people to have that everyone would be interested in seeing here? And if we ask for some of those things, I think we can cultivate the right answers. But for that, we need to have an informed conversation, which means asking the why, right? And once we get to the root of that, we can easily solve the how. And I
Exactly.
see Aditya is asking about finance and intersecting with analytics.
Exactly.
Um, this is huge. So when we look at the different things that are being involved in analytics, which this is the part that I'm most passionate about,
Wow.
is the when you look at the analytics function as a whole, that spans across industries, right? So Aditya, if you have a financial background, right, in terms of education or training or experience, right,
Hmm.
what I would look at is look for intersections where analytics is at play, maybe within your company or within the industry. And you can easily see this with starter kits, with those examples. And I think that's the perfect place to get started because you already know those questions. That's the soft skill aspect that you have
Hmm.
down. And what's important here is there's whole other sectors that are forming. So I'll give you an example, deep tech. So deep
Hmm.
tech is actually the intersection between design thinking, engineering, and analytics, right? So when we look at those three spaces, how much do they really have in common? There's some things, right? But what's
Hmm.
important is how are those things going to shape our future? So we want beautiful things involved in our lives, right? And most of
Right.
the simple things that have occurred over time that we've generated over thousands of years have gotten to the point where it requires deeper thought, deeper engineering. Like Elon Musk wants to move to Mars, right? That's a beautiful dream, but we've got to
True.
create space shuttles that can launch and do that.
Exactly.
We want smartphones that have all these things at our fingertips, right? So beautiful design, you've got engineering thinking, and you've got analytics. So what are the important things that people enjoy on a daily basis and need to have at their fingertips?
Hmm. Amazing. That is a great explanation. Thanks for that, Andrew. Okay. Moving on, I had an interesting question, a little different from Marcus. I'm just finding him. Okay, Marcus is here. Hi from Brazil. For starters, besides the tech skills, what you think about personal brand to get into analytics market?
Ooh, this is great. And
Yeah.
Marcus is being a little modest here because he actually has a great YouTube channel in Brazil, as well as other members of our team. But what I like about his is he maps out the entire journey, right? So even when we're first starting in the analytics space, don't feel like you don't have anything to offer. There's tons to offer because someone else is going through that exact same experience, right? Or they will be. And I just had a conversation with one of the members on my team about this yesterday. I said, hey, the important part is you only get that first time experience once. So that aha moment that you had, trying to reflect back,
Wow.
I mean, 10 years ago on what are all the ones that I had when I first started using Alteryx and Tableau is a little hard for me to do. And those experiences may be a little different for people who are new. So at that point, even if you've already seen someone say those
Hmm.
things, just getting those out and sharing them is important because you may have others that are interested in following the same path as you, and you can help them along that journey. And part of the way of doing that, um, I say, is just come up with the bookends, right? So, like if you want to record some videos, do the same intro, outro, and then that makes it nice and consistent. And then you can just
Yeah.
focus on what is the meat, right? I can focus on why are you here every time, and you've got that consistent branding.
Amazing. And don't forget to actually go and follow Marcus. His YouTube channel is Black Hill Ninja. I'm sure people will follow and learn a lot around it.
Yeah.
So thanks for that question, Marcus. Thanks for that answer, Andrew. A quick question actually from Bhana Ramtak. uh, how a non-technical background person can approach data analytics. This is very
Mhm.
interesting because obviously we have looked at the side, Andrew, where you said coding and programming are a part, but definitely it's not something which is you need to have it. But obviously getting into those getting into analytics in a deeper space, you might need it. But what
Yes.
about those who are really non-technical? What should be the approach to get into data analytics?
Yeah, so I mean, I would focus it more from the perspective of visualization. That's actually where I started. So when
Wow.
we think of this, Banaram, the visualization is interesting because you're absorbing visualizations all the time. Every day that's occurring, because you're looking at things scrolling along the bottom of the screen, right? It could be the stock
Mhm.
market, which those are simple aggregates, right? Just like if you're using Excel. And when we talk about this, the aspect of visualizations is more around, um, being good at asking questions, right? And can you get to a
Exactly.
solution quickly? So when we talk to the solution, it's really the answer. So if you were asking a question, in this case, how can a non-technical background person approach analytics, right? So we could start this simply by doing a Google search and
Mhm.
seeing if there's any analytics on how long maybe it took a person to get into the space. So now all of a sudden we frame the problem. Okay, how can a person approach this? Maybe they
Mhm.
need 8 weeks. Okay, what are the top skills that I could cultivate in 8 weeks to get into the space? And those may be simple, like downloading a Tableau uh, public download, and then doing makeover Mondays, right? Which is literally data that we're seeing in the news every
Yeah.
week. And then when we look at that data, now you also have examples on how others are showing. So again, it allows you not only to work on the same problem as others, but see their solutions. And then there you're focused on
Right.
mimicking their exact patterns, right? And it could just be recreating them.
Wow, these are super helpful suggestions, Andrew. Thanks for that question, Bhana. Okay, moving on. I was waiting for some time for this question, and Yamil asked it. Hey, Yamil, nice to see you in the show. Thanks for joining. So, what are the advantages that you see of being proactive in the data community? For example, building your portfolio, speaking at a local user group, posting content, sharing, and being part of weekly data challenges. Amazing.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Emil, for such a great question. And what, again, we have another person who's being really modest here because he just was given the title Tableau Ambassador.
Exactly.
So incredible opportunity for Emil. And part of the way that he did that was by building a portfolio, right? And if that's not your cup of tea, speaking at the local user groups is huge. That's where
Mm,
Emil and I actually both first met, right? And that's
wow.
some of that networking and socialization that occurs, right? and then posting any content that you have. Again, it doesn't even have to be to Banaram's question, hey, I don't have a technical background. Even if you're going through and you're learning these things and you just say, hey, I found this useful during the start of my journey with visualization. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be original content. You can just reshare, right? And then as you start getting into the
Definitely.
habit, flexing those muscles, right? You can see my muscles obviously aren't here. They're all on my keyboard. So when we kind of talk about that, those weekly challenges being part of that, it's just feeling like you're part of something, right? That's your
True.
first goal is I feel motivated, I'm excited to be here. And then once you start getting that feeling, then you'll start feeling like taking on more challenges.
Very true. This is interesting question, definitely, Emil. And congratulations on being the Tableau ambassador. It's huge, and building a brand definitely is not easy. But I think, like Andrew just mentioned, you need to start somewhere and just start with posting content, meeting people, and trust me, you'll reach places definitely.
And make it
So
fun. So
yeah,
something that I'll mention here real quick is if you're
yeah.
not following Yamil, right? Um, or data meaning, check out the 3 at 3 chart show.
Oh,
So what's incredible about this show, nothing to do about the tools, right? It's just focusing on
exactly.
visualization and what is the questions that they're asking, right? And they're starting with 3 questions. So Banama,
Mhm.
if you're looking for how can I break in, when we're talking about what questions should I be asking, this is again a quick way to start practicing with those muscles and getting into the space. And
Right.
Yamil actually invites people from all over to be part of the speakers, and literally you just bring a
Wow.
visualization and you're there to talk about it. So if that's something you would like to do, reach out to him. And he has a page where literally you can sign up for some of the topics that you want and be a guest speaker on his show.
This is amazing, and I can assure, I can validate that 3 by 3, 3 on 3 is definitely a great show. So guys, go and sign up and be a guest there. Definitely, you have that chance. So why not? Okay, thanks for that, Andrew. Moving on, a quick question on the leadership side from Christine. Um, how can leaders better design value-driven business solutions that address financial concerns while building a sense of organizational cohesiveness among members of an organization? Interesting.
Ooh, Christine, this is some really deep thinking here. I love this. So when we kind of talk about um, the value driven business solutions, right? There is obviously the technical component of that. And I would say explore some of those solutions that exist in there. And when we talk about creating cohesiveness, right? There's ironically, again, books. I love books. So, cultural renovation is one that I just finished a few weeks ago, and this relates to the idea that a lot of us come in and assume as part of a new position, the beginning of the year is coming up. Maybe you're looking at getting a promotion, or maybe you have been in this position for a while. And now that we're coming off of some of the effects of COVID, right? We're exhausted, people are feeling burnout. How do you rejuvenate some of that? And what I encourage people is think of what got your organization to the successful place that it's
Mhm.
at today. And then when we talk about that, that will help address some of the cohesiveness. And then when we talk about infusing new energy in there, we need to channel that anchor point that we had, right? And understand and be open to addressing some of, again, those feelings, the thoughts, concerns about driving change. And then when we look at those components, some of it could
Mhm.
be, in particular, data literacy is one of the most common problems that I see. So I would definitely recommend checking out like Ben Jones if you want to understand that a little more.
Oh yes.
He's got data literacy. They also have the LinkedIn group, which kind of helps address some of that. I
Yeah.
think that's a majority of the source of companies' pains and opportunities exist there. And when we talk about designing that, right, I look at two different axes when you're making these decisions and understanding platforms, right? Um, when we look at those, if we were to place it on a grid here, you have from left to right, you're going to have ease of deployment, right? And then from
Mm.
bottom to top, you have the ROI that it's providing the company. And remember, you need to establish some quick wins or some MVPs so people can get excited, right? You hear a lot of organizations, they say, oh my gosh, we're going to do the big bang approach. And what do? They
Mm.
say, all right, we're going to invest $20 million here. We're going to do a beautiful data lake. We're going to do all these things, right? Uh, Immediately, Christine, I'm going to go and put my head on the desk and say, oh man, this sounds like so much work. And I still have to keep the lights on for what I'm doing today. And what we
Very
can
true.
do is start with what are the small things that we can help in terms of creating cohesiveness among our team members. And a lot of that lies in the clarity of data throughout the organization, where I can instill trust and communication and free up time. So once we have that time freed up, now we can go from just doing roof shots to doing moon shots and do those large, incredible things that everybody's excited to do.
Wow, this was a great explanation, Andrew. Thanks for that. You've kind of, I think, you've actually filled that gap for Christine, where she was wondering how organizational cohesiveness might work, and how is it the sense of building a organization is definitely difficult. So. You've just made it easier for her. Thank you so much for that. Another interesting question which has come up is from Manisha. I would like to take this one because this kind
Mm.
of reflects on the project. What is one of the most challenging projects you have come across in years in the field of analytics? Any learnings? Interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few. So some of those, I think there's a few different ways that you can kind of see this. There's the three V's, right? So when we talk about
Yeah.
um, volume, velocity, and then even the viscosity of data, right, that exists. So that's literally the speed at which things need to transfer. So if we're talking real time analytics, there's lots of things that people don't think about transmitting a text message, right? Literally, that may go from myself to Ravit on the other side of the world in a matter of seconds. How do we make that happen? And then
True.
volume, which would be okay, there's billions of text messages flying around the world, right? Or LinkedIn messages. How do we solve those types of problems? And I think each of those kind of relays to those different aspects, right? And the viscosity, when we look at that, like how dense is that data? And when we talk about the density of data, that could relate to um, I'll give you an example. We may have one asset for data, which could be 1,000-page PDF. Those amazing uh,
Mhm.
references that you have, Ravit, that you put up around like, hey, how to get involved in data science. Those are
Yeah.
great because there's lots of information that exists there, right? But how do we process those holistically?
Mm.
And what I look at is each of those is its own problem and they have different ways of going about solving them. So if you want the broad knowledge, I would recommend just kind of taking some time with each one of those. The other
Very
thing
true.
that I would recommend is if you really want to like make a splash into your career, focus on one of those. For me, it was how dense the data was. I started with it was information from Amazon, right? So everybody loves Amazon and they want to go on there and do the shopping. But how do people determine what products should be in there? There's a lot
Yeah.
of richness in terms of data that's there for merchants. And then I have to collect information from my vendors, and some of that literally comes in PDFs. So how do you process all that information?
Exactly.
Um, and then I would say one of the other problems that I had referencing back to the Codathon with Health and Human Services, they gave us 400 gigs worth of data. on
Oh.
the opioid epidemic, hospital information, prescriptions, etc. And they said, hey, we're giving you 24 hours to help us come up with some solutions for this, right? That's a high volume of data, and how do you process all that? And there's
Very
different
true.
tools that exist for that. Alteryx can process that much information. I think if I had known about Snowflake back then, we definitely would have won the competition. I mean, no arrogance there at all, but I think it would have made a difference. And the other piece that I would highlight there is there were companies that had been working on some of these questions for 3 to 5 years before. So remember
Mhm.
that you can also stand on their shoulders and really make an impact. Don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel.
Very true. This was a great question. Thanks, Manisha, for asking this question because it brought many interesting aspects about projects and difficulties and a lot of learnings. So, thanks, Andrew, for being so honest and sharing the right, obviously, the path and also your experiences. But this was about present, about your past. Definitely, there's a question which is coming about the future. So
Mm.
let's take this one from Aditi. Where do you see analytics in next 3 to 5 years?
Uh, Honestly, my head's in the cloud with everybody else. So I think a lot of this is going to go to where you can access it. It's going to be on AWS, Azure, GCP, right? And when we look at this, you can see even with Tableau Public, right? They're starting to, there's talks about them transitioning even to the Tableau Public platform that you'll be able to develop online as well. So when we look at
Mm,
this, I would just keep in mind that not everything is going to be on your desktop. So as you look to understand what the future holds, it's going to be focused around connectivity to start. That's really, I think, going to be the 3 year time frame is how do we get all this stuff connected? And then when we see
right.
that coming down, it's October, so like a spider web, right? Like Halloween. And then all of that's going to have to be pulled back up. And when we look at how that's going to be pulled back up, it'll be focused in the cloud. So if you look at any of those cloud first platforms,
Mhm,
that's really going to help set the tone for what that 5 year mark is going to look like. So if you're trying to understand,
right.
okay, I understand I want to do visualization in general. Now there's so many visualization platforms out there. Do a quick search, see what's the most
Mhm,
popular hits, right? And then take a look at those and understand, hey, if I'm breaking into this as a career, does it have the ROI that I need, right? Again, going back to that,
exactly.
the ROI that I need, because this is going to be a 3 to 5 year investment. And then
Mm,
how easy is it going to be for me to start that? Am I going to see a return like an MVP within a year? Can I get it, land an interview, right? That would be step one in my eyes is can I land an interview? Okay, I landed an interview, I got a job. And then let's say
mm,
we have a salary number in our mind, or you're passionate, right? And you want to work towards working for a cause. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is an example. I want to
mhm,
work for them. What are the skills that they're looking for? You can
mhm,
identify those and then say, okay, the platforms that I'm on today, are they going to, do they have capabilities that are cloud ready 3 to 5 years from now?
mm. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that question, Aditi. Okay, moving on. Andrew, definitely this was great insights about past, present, obviously the future of analytics too. But a quick question about since you've already spoken about courses too, but and I know you are a avid reader, obviously you're carrying books everywhere, you have books around, so want to know more about if which are a few books which you would suggest someone planning to start their career in analytics. How
Ooh,
can they upskill, and how will that is there a book that will actually cover the present and maybe a bit of the future too? I know it's difficult, but maybe.
yeah, that's a great question. So let me point you to a few thought leaders. I think that's going to be
Mhm.
important, right? So when we talk about those thought leaders, I would recommend again Ben Jones. He has a number of
Yeah.
books that are out there, and when we discuss those books, again, it's focused more around what those thought patterns should be. Steve
Mm-hmm.
Wexler is another one. Um,
Yes.
known Steve for a number of years, and the big book of dashboards is incredible. So it's got a nice broad cross section. It's not specific to any platform. I would start with one of those to just get a feel if that's what you're looking for in the space. Um, Data transformation is a little tougher. We're actually playing with the idea at Data Meaning of doing something like the 3 at 3, but geared around transformation of
Mm.
data to make it a little broader, right? That's an area that, even though there are a lot of conceptual pieces that are the same, it's harder to generalize. So when we talk about that, I would look at some specifics there. And the easiest way is to get involved in a community. So again, how are they solving the problems? And focus on some of the logic pieces. So some good places for that. Pluralsight has a lot of thought leaders
Oh
that are
yes.
there. Tableau Zen Masters, Alteryx Aces, etc. in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at those individuals, they're providing their insights. That's a lot of it's cutting edge, right? And
Very true.
then the final piece that I'll touch on from a thought leadership perspective, Snowflake just announced that they nominated a handful of individuals as thought leaders. So I would
Wow.
recommend checking out them. And
Mm.
the CEO actually has a book. Let me see what his book was called. Uh, Snowflake CEO
Mm-hmm.
book. Um, Rise of the Data Cloud. Uh,
Wow. Is it already out, Andrew?
yes, yeah, that one's
Okay.
been out for a year now. That came out last December.
Okay.
So that's a really good book. Um, and if you want a little bit from a historical perspective, some other
Mm-hmm.
good ones were like In the Plex. That's about Google. So that one's really good. And the other one that I love is Elon Musk's biography. Those are really good just from a tech space to understand what some of those things were, um, looking back on uh, monumental careers, right? If we look back on those, what were some of the driving factors? And a lot of it, honestly, is just opportunity, right? You've got some of the environmental pieces, um, but really the key is how can you set yourself up for the most opportunities? And what's, again, ease of getting there, ROI. So the ROI for the portfolio is going to be much higher, I'll tell you. And then
Mm-hmm.
from an ease perspective, just being involved and watching some of these, like Ravit's channel, right? 3 at 3, and then being part of some of these webinars, it's only going to cost you maybe 5 minutes to an hour, right? But if you do that
Exactly.
a few times a week, you'll start gaining a sense and, again, flexing those muscles.
I think it is very important and totally makes a lot of sense there.
Mm.
And some great thought leaders that you have mentioned, definitely like Ben Jones, and obviously the book that you were talking about, Rise of the Data Cloud,
Yeah.
Joy Warbington just
Kate,
mentioned.
Kate
Yes.
from Dedicated, if you're not following her as well, she's incredible. I mean, again, you've got free conferences that are here on LinkedIn. Swag.
uh,
Who doesn't love some swag, right? You could show
exactly.
up to your interview with a Ravit T-shirt and say, "Yeah, I I was part of the Ravit Show, or I watched the Ravit Show," and they, at that point, they know that you're ingesting all that information all the time. And
Definitely.
Joe Worthington is coming up with a lot of good
Another
books
book.
here in the chat.
Oh yes, Storytelling by Cole is one great book, and I like you mentioned the book by Steve Wexler, the new book, The Big Picture. I was lucky enough to get a signed copy. Steve was
Mhm.
kind enough to send me a signed copy of his book, and I was so happy because it's coming from Steve, and he talks about data visualization so clearly in that.
Yes.
It's being a non-technical guy out there, and sitting and reading his book gives you so much education. So rightly, you have the right leaders on your hot list, Andrew. And you were also mentioning about digital transformation. I wouldn't want to not plug Bill Shomarzo, who talks a lot around digital transformation,
Mm.
about data monetization. He's great out there. So definitely do check out his book. It's amazing. It's on Amazon. So thanks for that, Andrew. But let's keep the show moving and learn a little around data meaning, because now it's time to learn about what's happening next for data meaning.
Oh man.
What are the plans? Which are the webinars that you guys are coming up with? And a little around some free, please feel free to mention around some free courses where people can actually go and visit to. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would let you go ahead.
So there's lots of ways to interact with us. I would definitely recommend just following us on LinkedIn because that'll get you a majority of the content. When we look at that, you'll see a lot of our YouTube videos that we post. So right now we're posting 2 a week, and to give you an idea of how we're scaling this, the team's been hard at work. That'll
Yeah.
be 5 a week at the beginning of the year. So we're literally ramping that up this quarter. So you'll see 3 a week, and those are on different platforms. So don't feel like you're just going to be seeing Alteryx stuff because I'm an Alteryx ACE, right? You're going to see a broad spectrum, Matillion, Snowflake, data science, and all of those will be in little snippets so you can kind of gather that information. And then the webinars that we have, right? So literally we have an Alteryx server webinar, which is the seventh one of our series that we've done. So those other six are posted up on YouTube. And then the seventh one that we're doing covers everything from, hey, you're just an end user of the server, all the way up to you're working with APIs, etc. And it's presented by fellow Alteryx Ace, Fernando Vizcaino, and I'm on there answering some questions. So we've got lots of interaction that's going on there. And then you also
Mhm.
have our Matillion webinar that's coming up. We have Talend, and then we have Talend is actually with Kate. We're going to be doing a session with her. Um,
Yeah.
so, and that's going to be around data governance. And then we've
Wow.
got Ace Fireside Chats. I mean, literally, our goal here is just to share everything as much as we can for free. And
Amazing.
when we discuss that, those sessions, again, anticipate seeing like 3 to 5 things, and all of this will be on demand. So even if you can't afford some time to watch some of our stuff in the middle of the day,
Hmm.
um, if you've got some time, maybe first thing in the morning when you're taking a walk, etc., you can see that. And Yamil's 3 at 3 is also there. So you can
Oh,
see
wow.
his spooktacular session that'll be having tomorrow at 3. So 2 events tomorrow, server webinar series, 3 at 3, and then keep an eye out for some of those videos. And if you just want to engage with us and get a sense, are you on the right track or want to answer some fun questions, we normally have polls a few times a week.
This is amazing. I think it's power packed, Andrew, in terms of the shows, the material, and every. I think Data Meaning is doing everything for the community in terms of spreading awareness in different, the topics, and giving different angles. It's not only just you, but Yamil is doing different things out there. Alan is doing different things. So it keeps us as community very motivated to and as content creators too, we feel that we should be creating more content, collaborating with Data Meaning, and definitely looking forward to all of these sessions, and can't wait to see your next session with Kate as well. And as you mentioned, who wouldn't be following Kate, because she's doing some amazing stuff in terms of obviously uh, say building conference, hosting different webinars, and but to be honest, this is fantastic coming from Data Meaning. um
And what
okay.
I'll what I'll
Yeah.
share with you is, I mean, really, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's some stuff that I can say I'm excited when I'm able to share it, but I can't share right now. we are working on some next level stuff. I just got back from our
Wow.
leadership retreat, and I think people are going to be blown away at the stuff that we're working on right now. And I would expect to see that come out next year, in addition
Mm.
to the things that you're already hearing that we're doing today.
Wow. I can't keep up with the curiosity already,
Yeah,
Andrew, but
you'll have
definitely
to
I think
follow us, man. You're going to have to
uh,
follow us to kind of see some of this stuff coming
I
out.
am I am definitely following data meaning in the folks that are making that difference at data meaning, because for a fact there's so much to learn. If I visited the website, for those who haven't visited the website, you need to know, you need to go and visit the data meaning website. There are resources, blogs, obviously on demand videos, so you can learn a lot around there. Feel free to do that. Also, before we move on towards announcing our winner for today,
Yeah.
uh, I would actually pick this interesting question from. I'm just finding the question. It's just gone somewhere.
The chat's been so active today. It's awesome.
I,
I
I,
thank you guys for that.
oh, totally. Okay, Marvin is on a roll, and don't forget to follow Marvin too, because he has some amazing questions. So, are, are are there other analytics LinkedIn influencers that you encourage people to follow?
I think this one's an interesting question, and this definitely relates to what is your focus area, right? So I would look from a platform perspective and kind of follow some of those individuals. And then there's others. If you look at top voices for 2020, right? 2021 within LinkedIn, I would look at some of those. I'm following a majority of them.
Yeah.
The other ones that I look at following are individuals who are leading forward thinking um, analytics companies. So an example would be like the T-Mobile CEO, right?
Mm.
So when we look at him, uh, if you look at how quickly the company has kind of turned around, it's incredible, right? So don't just think of following individuals. I'd also recommend following those companies because they're posting stuff, right?
Mm.
And you can get ideas if you go on the conference pages. You'll see who's speaking at those conferences. Who are those individuals from a thought leader perspective, and what are their companies doing? Ravit, did you have any analytics influencers that you would recommend following?
Oh yes, definitely. In terms of analytics, I know David Langer, who's
Yeah.
amazing. He's out there. He's creating some amazing courses out there. A few more who are actually more around. They are actually authors. One
Mm.
is obviously John Thompson. He's written a book, Building Analytics Teams. And if you are actually working in analytics, definitely Building Analytics Teams is one of the most interesting books. I recently got a book from I'm so sorry, I forgot the name of that book, but Advanced Analytics with Python and R, maybe.
Mm.
uh, and that's an amazing book. I will actually search the name of the author, see if I can get it for our audience. It's a book by O'Reilly, and
Mm.
yes, it's by George Mount. So if you're not following George Mount, please do. He's writing some amazing books and creating some great content. So yes, these are some influencers definitely and authors that you can follow.
Another one that I would recommend in the visualization space is Ryan Sleeper. So if you haven't
Oh,
checked out
oh
Ryan
yes.
Sleeper, he's just incredible. Uh,
Oh
so
yeah, he's like the tableau master out there. He knows the stuff so well.
yeah,
So yes, definitely follow Ryan.
uh,
Okay. Um,
Eva Murray is another big one. So if you're looking at big data, right, and visualization,
mm,
Eva Murray, she originally helped found Makeover Mondays, but
mhm.
then she moved over to Snowflake, and she writes for New York Times as well.
Wow.
So another one that I look at from a visualization perspective, she just has some really thought-provoking stuff. Is
Mm,
Mana Chalabi. So check her out on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
He's got some, again, some thought provoking visualizations. Um, so some of it can be a little political, but I like seeing how she's writing it because she's a journalist, right?
Yeah,
So I would look
exactly.
at journalists actually, because if you think from an analytics perspective, we've got all these cool things now, right? Where it's interactive. And what's changed over the years, you have to think of who were the original analysts. They were
Mm,
journalists. And
very
what did
true.
they do? They didn't even have any color. They had black and white on a newspaper, right? And then
Right.
now they had to relay things like how does a how does a space shuttle get around the moon, right? When we talk about looking at things like that, how do you convey such a complex topic as that with a single image? And if you can do that effectively, right? If
Mm,
you can understand and convey that, I think that's the essence of what like Emil's trying to capture with 3 at 3. Look for
mm.
individuals that kind of really prompt that. And if you can find those and just absorb a little bit of that at a time, it's going to make you light years ahead of any other analyst in the space.
I think you've just picked very important point in that's some approach that you're following, obviously, Andrew, in terms of journalists were the real analysts back then. They were so sharp with just black and white paper out there and creating some impact. And I think analysts are meant to be, actually create that impact through their analysis. So
Yeah.
makes total sense there. Okay, there are many comments, but this one was funny and I can't not take it, which is Andrew Kim, are you sure you are in analytics or and not marketing?
I think someone finally picked up on it. So I'll share this as a little bit of background. Um, I wasn't really in the analytics space originally. So
Wow.
when I started, I used to own a landscaping business many years ago. And when we talk about that landscaping business, it was that and then ice cream. So I could talk to you all day about ice cream, Ravit. If you
Wow.
want to have a show on ice cream, let's do it. So when I started with those two, I was
Mm,
focused on owning my own business. I did 7 minors and then I picked 2 majors. Those were marketing and finance. Because
mm,
basically, what I wanted to figure out is I can hire somebody to count my money, right? But I want to know how am I going to most effectively spend my money.
mm,
That's finance, right? And then
exactly.
marketing is I could have the greatest product in the world, but if nobody's going to buy it, then it doesn't matter, right? So when we
Exactly.
talk about our analytics, everybody is in sales at some point, which is why you have to ask the question, right? If it
Very
doesn't
true.
answer the question, then you've sold nothing. And people have to be willing to buy your analytics if you want a promotion, or even very simply, let's start at the basics, a job, right?
Amazing. I think Andrew, we just found an irony there because I've done my finance major and marketing minor. So we are on the same place where, and I have a similar thinking where it's not just about the numbers, it's not just about the finance, but at the same time, you need to have those skills where you need to sell something, because in the end of the day, how will you actually calculate the finances if you can't sell something out there? So that is definitely a great point, and glad to hear your story. Thanks for that, Andrew. All right, I know we are up and above the time, but it is such a pleasure hearing you, talking to you about analytics. And before we take your leave, Andrew, definitely would love to announce our winners for today.
Yes.
There are a few folks who have, let's do this raffle. We have 17 entries. All the best to
We've
the
got drum
winner.
roll, right?
Yes, that's right. Oh, wow. That's amazing background music. Very well suitable. Sharon from YouTube. All right, Sharon, congratulations. You win an annual subscription of 365 Data Science. I will reach out to you. But nevertheless, Andrew, this was fantastic. Just one last question that I have for you is, if folks want to reach out to you, which is the best place? If they want to learn more about data meaning, they want to subscribe to your channel, if they want to know more about Alteryx, about different courses, learn more about data analytics, what
Yeah.
is the best place to reach out to you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. So you can find
Okay,
me at Andrew Data Kim. Andrew Data
fantastic.
Kim. Yeah.
Very,
Kim is
very
my
clear.
middle name. So we're ready to go.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Andrew. This was fun. Can't wait to have a 2.0 version with you on the Ravit Show. And definitely that time, I will maybe wear a data meaning t-shirt and I'll send over the Ravit Show swag to you.
Yeah, it looks
And
like you got an invite from Emil too. He said, let's do some swag swap here.
Oh,
And he
yes,
wants to see you on the
exactly.
show. Yeah.
Exactly. I was just looking at that. So, Yamil, definitely, if I'll be happy to share my swag around and wear 3-on-3 swag because I'll look much cooler, I feel. So, happy to do so. But thanks everyone for joining in and asking such amazing questions. Andrew, it was fun. I will see you soon.
Thank you so much. And happy Tuesday, everyone.
Happy Tuesday. Take care. Bye bye.